Town meetings have been conducted since the town was established in 1742. This meeting is now officially open. Jim, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Jim. Tom, did you want to make a statement?
Yes, please.
Microphone.
Welcome, everybody. I've got some sad news. Andrew Rauchi, a member of our community, a member of the Budget Committee, passed away on Wednesday evening. He's not with us tonight, but I would like us to make a moment of silence in honor of Andrew, and keep Kate and their 3 young children in your prayers, please. So if you're able to, please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you all.
Thanks, Tom. I'm going to start with some introductions. We have the supervisors of the checklist, Jane Morse, Kevin Murphy, and Joanne Knox. If you haven't done so already, please go and check in. Town clerk and tax collector is Sue Buchanan and her new deputy, Karen Berger. Select board members are Chair James Sununu, Jim Majori, Jonathan Panett. Chair of the Budget Committee is Tom Von Jess. We also have Sean Dion, Larry Miller, Jerry Ganazzo, Lisa Gallagher, Lisa Gagalis, and Paul Martino. Town Administrator is Mike Tully, Finance Director Ryan Cornwell, Planning and Zoning, Administrator Rick Milner, Interim Police Chief Kevin Walsh, and our Deputy Scotty, Interim Fire Chief Jason McGlashing, DPW Director Stu Spooner. I'm your moderator, Bobby Burns, and with your assistant moderator, Bill Pelletier. Thanks to John Savastano and Troy Kladeris and Nick Alpers for broadcasting today, and thanks for Dustin Marzizik and his new team for the room setup. Tom, have you opened a Budget Committee meeting?
We have.
Okay. Deliberative session is our opportunity to meet as a legislative body. This is a gathering of all registered voters who wish to participate. Select Board and Budget Committee meetings are running concurrently so that they may vote on items pertinent to their board or committee if necessary. Select Board and Budget Committee members are also participating as registered voters, just as you and I. As such, if you don't understand something or need clarification, please raise your hand, ask me. I can't stress this one enough. This is your opportunity to ask questions and make changes to warrant articles. Under our form of town meeting, we deliberate and possibly amend articles. Actual voting on the warrant by casting official ballots will be on Tuesday, March 11th, here at the school from 8 to 7 p.m. If you can't make it, Sue has some absentee voter forms here today that you can pick up at the end of the meeting. Or if you would like to volunteer to work that day, also see Sue for that. We are limited in what we can do today. We may amend or modify, but not change the subject matter of any article. By law, some articles cannot be amended or modified. As such, those will not be changed today, and the specific ones are the zoning articles. Discussions will be limited to what can be done at this meeting. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask if you're not sure. We will not vote to put any article on the warrant. All articles, either as is or amended, will appear on the official ballot. Each article will be projected on screen. The article will be moved to the floor and seconded. I will then recognize someone to provide a brief explanation of the article. Then we will open it to the floor for others to speak. We have some basic rules. This is a meeting of registered voters. Non-voters will generally not be allowed to speak. Town staff who are not registered voters may be asked to speak for purposes of providing information or clarification. Please come up to the microphone to speak. Lining up behind the person speaking moves things along, so don't wait. If you have something to say, get up and stand in line behind the microphone. If you are unable to get to the microphone, let me know and we'll bring it to you. Show your voter card and state your name for the minutes. Please address all comments and questions to me, even though others may be answering your question. Only one person has the floor at a time. Discussion between parties is not allowed. Once you have made your comment or asked your question, I ask that you then yield to the next person speaking. If you are proposing an amendment, have it ready in writing to ensure that we can record it properly. We will discuss only one amendment at a time. This is only to make sure we keep things straight. Please let others speak before speaking a second time. Try to limit your comments to a few minutes, and if someone has already made the point, skip it. We don't need to all agree, but please try to be polite to each other. Everyone here is doing their best. Remember, all articles or amendments to an article can be reconsidered at any time unless a vote is taken to restrict reconsideration. Once reconsideration is restricted, the article cannot be reopened. The following individuals will be on the March ballot for open positions. For Select Board, we have one opening of a 3-year term. Frank Ferraro and Tom Von Jess will be on the ballot. If you're here, can you either raise your hand or stand so that people can see you? Town Clerk, Tax Collector, 3-year term, Susan Buchanan. Town Treasurer, 1 3-year term, Angela Blattis. 1 Library Trustee, 3-year term, Kathy Kilgore and Jonathan Panett. 2 Budget Committee members, 3-year terms, Richard Stanton, Anne Marie Banfield, John Cannon, and Robert Mikulski. 1 Trustee of the Cemeteries, 3-year term, Mary Lambert and Kristen Larson-Schultz. 2 Planning Board members, 3-year terms, Robert Shep-Kroner and John Soleil. 1 Water Commissioner, 3-year term, Kathy Kilgore. 2 Zoning Board members, 3-year terms, Larry Miller and Robin Reed. 1 Trustee of the Trust Funds, 3-year term, George Clancy. Okay, Chauncey, sorry, George. We'll start with Article 2, Amendment to Zoning Ordinances. Can I have a motion to move that to the floor?
I would like to make a motion to move Article 2 to the floor as presented.
Second.
And Phil, are you going to talk to this article?
Phil Wilson, 9 Runnymede Drive, and I'm chair of the planning board. Article 2 is an amendment that is designed simply to make something clear, which we have been taking for granted, but recent events have made it necessary for us to make sure that people understand that our zoning ordinance is permissive. And I've never quite figured out exactly how they got to that name for it. What it means is nothing is permitted unless it is explicitly stated in our table of permitted uses. So we're changing the section 103 so that it says specifically that, let me see where I want to start reading it. The zoning ordinance regarding permitted uses is that if a use is not specifically identified as a permitted use or a use permitted by special exception in a zoning district, the use is not permitted in that zoning district. It doesn't change a thing except it makes it clear.
Any comments or questions on this article? Nope. Article 2 moves to the ballot as is. Can I have a motion to move Article 3 to the floor?
I make a motion to move Article 3 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Go ahead, Phil.
Article 3 is a change we are making as a result of an RSA that Mr. Majori and his colleagues in the state legislature passed last year, which is intended to provide more family daycare and group daycare in the state of New Hampshire, which has been identified as a critical need for economic development and other reasons. So this says that our amendment does is it changes the zoning ordinance to include family daycare, group daycare within the permitted use category in all zoning districts in conformance to the state of New Hampshire law.
Thanks, Phil. Any comments or questions on this article? Okay, Article 3, moves to the ballot as is. Moving on to Article 4, can I have a motion for the floor?
I move Article 4 to the floor as presented.
I second the motion.
Bill?
This amendment is to essentially acknowledge that what we have used as our baseline wetlands map in the town, the Normandale map of, I think it's 1986 or something. I'll make sure I get the date right here. Well, whatever it is. It is approximate. Whenever we have something at the planning board that requires a wetland delineation, we see that there are variations from that Normandale map, which was not an on-the-ground survey of all soils. So now what we're proposing that we allow is that when there is a wetlands delineation that comes to the planning board, along with an application for a sites plan or a subdivision, we can use that to amend our official wetlands map in town so it is more accurate than it was before. That's it.
Thank you, Phil. Any questions on Article 4? Okay, moving on. Article 4 moves to the ballot as is. Motion to move Article 5.
I move Article 5 to the floor as presented.
Second the motion.
Bill?
This one's probably the more complicated one, though it too is simply an attempt to clarify a specific provision in the zoning ordinance that from the point of view of town administration, the planning and zoning administrator has caused some confusion. It is Section 501.6, the buffer zone requirements. There are a couple of changes that are just editorial deletions. Somebody, and I hesitate to ridicule the author of this because I fear it may have been me, but we made, I honestly don't remember, but I think it was, but at the end of two sections, we have the following clause: existing, this is about any lot of record, and then this is what we're deleting, existing as a use as of March 11, 2003. I think that's 11, not 14, but anyway. Or any lot created subsequently. Now that says any lot before a date and any lot following that date, which means any lot of record. So we're deleting the statement that I have no idea why that was in there. But we're deleting that, but that's not the problematic one. This section is a section which, when the 100 feet wetlands buffer was adopted, I believe it was in 2003, 2005 maybe. No, it was 2003. If that provision of requiring 100 feet wetlands buffer reduced the buildable area of any lot of record in town to less than 16,000 square feet, the owner of that lot was given relief from that 100 feet buffer to build within the building envelope that was available, whatever it was. So essentially, it would resorted to the 50 feet or 75 feet wetland buffer that existed before we adopted the 100 feet buffer. And then, I mean, it's pretty, maybe it's not pretty simple to understand, but it is pretty simple to understand if you think about it. But the problem came in a following section about developed lots of record. That was for undeveloped lots of record. For developed lots of record, we had a provision that said, notwithstanding other provisions of this section 501.6 of the zoning ordinance, and then went on to explain what you could do by constructing an addition or expansion to developed a structure that was already developed on the lot. Now, the point of the notwithstanding was to say that regardless of whether you were using that qualification of I get to build on my lot because it's less than 16,000 square feet of developed area, you can expand it, but within restrictions, and the following restrictions applied to it. But in reading that, again, town administration said that people were getting confused, and they didn't understand that if they had taken advantage of that restriction the relief above in the zoning ordinance resorting back to the 50 feet wetland buffer, they still had to comply with no expansion, further expansion into the 100 feet that applies to everybody else. And this is an attempt to make clear that, yes, you get relief if your lot's less than 16,000 square feet of developable area. But if you want to expand what you develop within whatever area you can develop, you still cannot move further into the 100 feet buffer that applies to everybody else. And there's some other characteristics of it, but you'd have to read it to see. Frankly, I hope it makes things clear. I'm not sure that it will. I think town administration still have to explain people how this applies, but it's an attempt.
Okay, any questions on Article 5? No questions. Article 5 moves to the ballot. Article 6, 2026
Thank you.
operating budget. Thank you, Phil. Operating budget, can I have a motion to move Article 6?
I make a motion to move Article 6 to the floor as presented.
I second the motion.
And Michael, you're speaking to this article, right?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Last year's operating budget at $9,641,000, comparatively to this year's proposed budget of $10,024. Difference of $382,000 or 3.96%. A little bit more importantly is the difference between the operating budget and the default budget, which comes out to 3.75%. Pretty similar. So what makes up that $382,000 that we're going up? The next few slides are going to go through that. In the executive line, just over $12,000 for salaries and multiple other business things. Town clerk and elections, $8,300. Financial administration of $13,900. Data processing of $21,000, which includes not only PCG, our provider, but also different softwares and processes that we have. Property valuation of $2,900. Legal expenses at $13,500. We had to increase legal expenses for code enforcement and land use, but we offset some of it by reduction in legal expenses for labor negotiations because we shouldn't have any this year. Personnel administration, $11,000. That's mainly for compensation and health insurance. Planning and zoning of $6,200. General government buildings of $11,183. Cemeteries, $200 for telephone, internet, and cable. Insurance of $22,522. That's increases in workman's comp, property liability, long and short-term disability, and we had a little bit of a reduction in term life. $197 for associations and advertising. That's New Hampshire Municipal Association dues. Police, an increase of $50,000, mainly increase in salaries and offset by a reduction in health insurance and retirement. Fire and rescue, $208,163, mainly increase in salaries and overtime, but a few other things inside that department that caused some increases. Code enforcement, about $5,300. Emergency management, $4,602. Highways and streets, savings of $18,867, mainly reduction in salary because we had a retirement of the director, and we had an equipment lease that is done being paid, so we won't have to pay that lease anymore. Street lighting, we were able to find savings of $1,500. Brush disposal, increase of $754. Solid waste, $11,200, mainly because of tipping fees for bulky waste disposal. For those of you that don't realize, you may pay a company to pick up your trash, but the tipping fees for that trash are inside the budget to pay that. And we're expecting that to be an increase that we'll see in the next couple of years. Recycling up $2,300. Water services, $24,000 savings. That's a reduction in the distribution costs for hydrants. Last year we had a one-time fee that we got charged, so we didn't have to cover that this year. Mosquito control, we were able to negotiate that down $2,500. Parks and recreation up $6,100. Patriotic purposes up $500. Conservation Commission up $5,000, down $5,000, I'm sorry. We took that out of the budget due to there wasn't water testing being done, but that can be put back in the future if we find a need to do some of that testing. Debt service principal up 19,000, and interest is down 14,000. And then Northampton Public Library is up just under $16,000. So when we look at that $382,000, and then I read through that, you might say, all right, where are our drivers for our budget? And $348,000 of that increase is for compensation for employees, both union and non-union, including retirement, overtime, and things like that. So the lion's share of that is your employees. The next slide gives you an idea. It's something I like to put in every year just to give you an idea of where your money goes. And I'm sure it doesn't surprise anybody that Public Works and Public Safety are about 50% of the budget. And then we go into health insurance, general government, debt and debt service that make up the rest of what you pay each year. I'll be happy to answer any questions regarding any of the budget.
Okay, anyone that'd like to make a question, comment, come up to the microphone.
Kirsten Larson Schultz, 121 Post Road. If
Kirsten, you did check in, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
If somebody sues the town, what line item does that expense appear on the budget?
The costs associated with attorneys to defend it
Correct.
would be out of the legal line.
Which legal line?
Might depend on the case. Yeah. So it would depend on the case. You know, general is general government business. We might have to do code enforcement. If it's a code enforcement, it would come out of that legal line. Land use and obviously labor if it was a labor issue.
So there's no real way for a voter to understand how much we're spending for the town to defend against these lawsuits. Is that correct?
I don't know if, I think when you look at a budget, there's really no way to determine exactly what's in every line inside a budget. We can certainly answer questions if you have questions on what they may be.
Okay, thank you. Can I have one more question? Quick
Since
one.
there's no one standing behind you, yes, you can.
I noticed that this was recommended by the Budget Committee 6-2. I'm just curious who the two were that voted against.
Does anyone on the Budget Committee want to say?
So Lisa Gallagher.
No, sorry. That was a preliminary vote. The final vote was 9-0.
The last one, for gas one?
Yep,
Yeah.
9-0?
yes.
Yeah.
It was unanimously recommended.
Thank
in
you.
the Final vote.
Thank you, James.
Okay, any other comments or questions on budget?
I didn't mean to throw you under the bus. I was going to through
Okay.
All right. So
Seeing,
yes, I will move to restrict reconsideration.
Larry? Larry, you have a question? Oh, you're seconding. Okay.
Say it again.
All right, so I'm going to move to restrict reconsideration of Article 6.
We have a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Article 6 moves to the ballot as written. Moving on to Article 7, proposed police and highway department collective bargaining agreement.
I move Article 7 to the floor as presented.
Second the motion.
And James, I think you're going to speak to this
Yes.
article, right?
Yes, Article 7 is the proposed police and highway department's collective bargaining agreement. These are the agreements we have with our union employees that come up periodically. I'll hit some of the highlights of this agreement. This is a 3-year agreement. Some of the changes in here are adjustments to salary commensurate with other communities. We've looked at other towns in our area to make sure our pay levels are competitive. It includes new language on the process for filing for overtime to clarify that with employees. It updates the private detail pay rate. This is the pay rate that officers are paid when they are working a construction or utility detail out on the road. It adjusts the available vacation allowance for employees. It updates and adds positional stipends. These are additional stipends that officers can earn for receiving different certifications. It adjusts the uniform allowance to accommodate cost increases on uniforms that we've seen over the last few years. It updates callback pay for officers who are called back to duty after a shift. It introduces longevity stipends for officers who have been with Northampton for extended periods of time. And it introduces a shift differential, which is additional pay for overnight shifts for officers. You can see in the article the cost of these items. The estimated cost increase in the first year is $174,000, and then subsequent years $108,000 and $117,000 over the life of the contract.
Okay, any comments or questions about this article? Okay, seeing no comments or questions, Article 7 will move to the ballot as written.
Yep, I'll move to restrict for consideration of Article number 7.
Do I have a second?
Second. Ooh, Larry.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion to restrict reconsideration passes. Article 7 moves to the ballot as written. Moving on to Article 8, replace fire and rescue ambulance.
I'll move Article 8 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Jonathan, I think you're going to speak to this article?
Yes, so the replace of the fire and rescue for the ambulance. So this has no effect on the tax rate. It's paid from the Fire Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. This downtime with the ambulance causes further financial issues as the income from the ambulance funds for the fire department equipment. The ambulances are 3 years out for delivery, so we're a little back ordered on this from the time that they are ordered. So there's a 3-year waiting period. And we will receive this ambulance in the year of 2028.
Okay. Any comments or questions in regards to this article? Okay, Article 8 moves to the ballot as written.
All right. Do we have a second?
Motion to restrict?
I'll make a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 8.
I'll second it.
All right,
Okay.
I will
All the-
move to,
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Article passes. Article 8 moves to the ballot as written. Article 9, road resurfacing.
all right, so
I'll move Article 9 to the floor as presented.
Second the motion.
Jonathan?
all right, so road resurfacing. This article is to fund the road and street improvements for the town of Northampton. This is a 15-year road plan that has been just completed, so Director Spooner will be working with Mr. Hubbard and creating a new 15-year plan. The road is to be completed are the Short South Road, Lovering Road, and Shepherd's Lane.
Okay, any comments, questions on Article 9? Okay. Article 9 will move to the ballot as written. Motion
All
to
right.
reconsider?
All right, so I will move the restriction, or I will move to restrict reconsideration of Article 9.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to Article 10, purchase of police body-worn cameras.
I'll move Article 10 to the floor as presented.
Second.
James, are you going to
Yes.
speak to it?
Yes. So this article is to purchase police body-worn cameras for our police department. I think everyone's familiar with the body-worn cameras that police departments have been deploying across the country. This project has been contemplated for a few years. It was actually moved up by recommendation of the CIP committee to do this this year instead of next year. This article, the total cost of this is $78,600, but half of that will be paid for by a grant that was applied for by Deputy Chief Scotty and, from the state, and that will cover 50% of the cost. We will have enough cameras for all of our officers and cruisers.
Okay, any questions, comments, Article 10?
Kathleen Kilgore, 220 Atlantic Avenue. I would like to ask if the interim chief of police recommends this warrant article.
Okay, Chief?
Good morning, everybody. My name's Kevin Walsh, and first I'd like to thank the town of Northampton for this great opportunity for my career to come in as an interim chief, so thank you very much. Thank you for the question. It's a good question. As you can see, I am wearing a body camera right now. And the program is designed to go over building trust and legitimacy, policy and oversight, technology, social media, training and education, and officer wellness and officer safety. Picture is 1,000 words. And RAI has been having the opportunity to have this over the last 24 months. And what we've found is it's improved training, which is the service to the people. How can we do it better? The officers reanalyze the videos that come out on certain types of calls for services. In fact, the camera video for RAI is going to be tested at Rockingham County Superior Court, actually on a Northampton case, on a very unfortunate domestic. So we're looking to see how the court responds to the video, what the bench trial will produce as far as a conviction, and how that will hold as evidence. But more importantly, the analyzing and going over on how the officer can just do it better. Motor vehicle stops, interaction with the community, when somebody has a complaint, when the service they feel isn't meeting their standards, what can we do to do a review of that, have the officer self-reflect looking at that, and how we can do it better. So far, the camera program, in my opinion, has been very profitable for RAI, and I'm looking forward for that to happen over in Northampton. And then we're going to share those things in 2 towns and police departments on how we can do it better. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chief Walsh. Any other comments or questions?
In private conversations with the past
You need to
police chief,
just state your
Paul
name.
Salamis,
Thanks.
24 Pine Road.
And Paul, have you checked in?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
So in previous conversations with our past police chief, he was against body cameras.
We can't hear you, Paul.
Start all over? Oh, there we go. Okay, so Paul Salamis, 24 Pine Road, Northampton. In conversations with the past police chief, he was against body cameras, period.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Come on up, Anne Marie.
Anne Marie Banfield, 7 Highlander Road. I thought in the explanation that you said that the police officers wear one, and then there's one in the car. Can you clarify that? Is that
That's
true?
correct.
Okay, can you explain why both are needed? That's
I'm going to look to the deputy chief or the chief. I believe it's the desire is to get dashboard footage from the car that can monitor the scene as well as direct video from the officer, but I'm going to let the chief give a more accurate.
Selectman Sunu is correct. The town of Northampton is opting to do both. RAI had started a test with the camera for each individual officer, and then we're going to be moving to that. If you look at a 360 picture, the camera in front in the cruiser will capture certain things that the body camera will not, because the cameras, when you think about it, when you're sitting in the cruiser, is probably looking at the dashboard because it's at that kind of height, whereas the camera in the cruiser will capture the wide vision of what the officer's seeing in the cruiser. Then as they get out and move away from the view of the camera from the cruiser, the body camera will capture that, and then connecting those two will get 100% the entire interaction. And that's the kind of the thought process that was moving forward. RISE program, we decided to test it another way, and we'll be moving towards the cameras in the cruisers once we've tailored the body-worn camera program for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Good morning.
Hi, Janet.
Hi. Janet Larson, 121 Post Road. I'm just asking, can you amend language in a warrant at this point in time? Because I feel like you might get more voters to approve this if it also mentions that they're cruiser cameras also, and not just body cams. When people think of the number of police officers we have right now, it might explain the price a little more.
Do you have a motion that you would like to suggest?
Excuse me?
Do you have a motion that you would like to suggest, an amendment you'd like to
I'm
suggest?
making a motion to make an amendment that the article would read body cameras and cruiser cameras, or whatever the official language is for that.
Okay, so I'm
Can
going
I-
to put, go ahead.
Can I would suggest, if you want, the motion could amend it to read, for the purchase of body-worn and cruiser cameras.
Perfect. I make that motion.
Is there a second on that motion? Who was the second? Oh, it was Kirsten. Oh, we got lots of seconds. Okay. You got a second? Okay, does anyone have comments or questions on the motion that's on the floor?
Thank you.
No comments or questions in regards to that? Okay, so we're going to vote on making an amendment to change the article to read for the purchase of body-worn and cruiser cameras for the police department, blah, 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 blah. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Any other comments or questions in regards to this article?
I will move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 10.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, Article 10 moves to the ballot as amended. Moving on to Article 11.
I make a motion to move Article 11 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Jim, can you also speak to it?
Happy to. Thank you, Madam Moderator. So this is for the purchase of a fire and rescue reserve pumper truck. A new pumper truck will probably cost us about $1 million come the day that we need one. The chief has, through some circumstances, realized that we can actually purchase a used pumper truck here for $25,000. We had some issues when, if you might remember, there was a fire down at the beach last year. And when we sent the vehicles down there to assist with that, we have saltwater corrosion that occurred on those vehicles. We have now the opportunity for $25,000 to have a spare piece of equipment that could be used for such a circumstance, that could also be used when fire has to go out and have a blocking vehicle, could be used as another toolbox, as they call it. So this is, and the Select Board thought carefully about this in consideration with the chief, that this is a good insurance policy right now as a secondary piece of equipment rather than the necessary, rather than have to go out for $1 million piece of equipment.
Okay. Any comments or questions in regards to the fire and rescue pump truck? Come on up.
Pete Roby, 87 Exeter Road. I was just curious if the $25,000 vehicle has been chosen yet, and it's a big difference between $1 million and $25,000, so I'm curious just what the condition of this piece of equipment is going to be in, and if it's actually worth it.
I think our town administrator can speak to the specifics of the vehicle and where we received it from and its condition.
Thank you, Mr. The vehicle in question we've been utilizing inside the department. So we were waiting for our new fire truck to get here, and there was multiple delays of, I'm looking at Jake, but I think almost 1.5 years of delays on that vehicle. So the vehicle that we were replacing, eventually in that 1.5 years time, the frame rotted and it had a giant crack and we couldn't use it anymore, so we were down a truck. And then when we took the secondary engine down to Hampton, we were down in a flooded area, and it was ready for refurb anyway, but we were holding off the refurb until we got the new truck in. And then we started having all kinds of electrical problems from the salt water. So if anybody looked around town, you saw Rochester fire trucks and Exeter fire trucks driving around town, and the reason was that we borrowed those trucks in order to cover our town while we were waiting for our new truck to come in and the old truck to get repaired. That truck that we borrowed from Exeter, Exeter had purchased a new engine, so their new engine came in and they were going to sell that truck. So we've been utilizing this truck for about 8 months. About 8 months. The department mechanic who runs a diesel mechanic shop has gone over the truck. We haven't had any issues while we've been using it for the last 8 months. It's in good condition, so there is some history there. We're not just, going out on Craigslist and looking to buy, a truck. Thank you.
Okay. Frank, come on up.
Frank Farrow, Post Road. I want to say I'm in support of the article. I know that when the department has to respond to accidents on the highway, the department will send up a fire truck to be their blocker. And sending up a $500,000 or $1 million truck doesn't make a lot of sense if you can send a $25,000 truck out to block traffic and hope it doesn't get hit, but it might. I hope this is germane, but as Selectman Majori mentioned, the chief raising this, I think we should acknowledge the years of support and service from Fire Chief LaJoy. And I don't know if that's a round of applause or what, but I want to acknowledge that.
Okay, any other comments or questions in regards to Article 11? Okay,
All right, so I will move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 11.
second.
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Article 11 moves to the ballot as written. Article 12, contribution to the Coakley Landfill Capital Reserve.
I'd like to move Article 12 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Second.
Jonathan?
Yes, so the contribution to the Coakley Landfill Capital Reserve Fund. So this is an annual article to cover the current and expected costs for the Coakley landfill. A $250,000 payment is due in 2030 above yearly ongoing costs. So the costs during COVID were lower than expected, so we're able to lower the amount of the article moving forward.
Okay, any comments or questions in regards to this article?
Kathleen Kilgore, 220 Atlantic Avenue. Could you just could the select board or the town administrator provide to the public the information on what our total liability for Coakley is? I know we don't know the number, but I believe there's a percentage that has been established that we are responsible for.
So that is a good question. It can be answered in kind of a couple parts. The total liability that we're responsible for the rest of time, as long as Coakley there, is about 4% of the ongoing costs of. It's divided into two projects, OU1 and OU2, which was the closing of the landfill and then the remediation going forward. Right now, we're looking at about $362,000 over the next few years. We work off of numbers that were developed by the Coakley Landfill Group, and those numbers are estimations of projects that they're going to do. And what happened during COVID is they didn't do some of those projects. So in 2020, we had divided up over the next 10 years what we were going to spend or what we were estimated to spend, and then started charging that every year in a warrant article. When we got to this point and we saw that some of those monies weren't spent, we know about the larger payment coming forward, but we decided to lower the amount because we don't know now what those monies are going to be spent.
Okay, any other comments or questions in regards to this article? Okay,
All right, so I will move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 12.
second.
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Article 12 moves to the ballot as written. Moving on to Article 13, contribution to the Earned Time Settlement Capital Reserve Fund.
I'd like to move Article 13 to the floor as presented.
Second.
And James, if you could speak to that?
Sure. This is an annual article that we have on the warrant. This takes, the purpose of this article is to take into account earned time liability for the town. That is vacation or sick days or other leave time that employees earn that they might not actually use, so unused vacation time, sick days, things like that. Depending on the contract, or the employee could be union or non-union. They have certain ability to buy out some of that unused time. And so each year we do an estimate of what the potential total liability of all that unused time is for the forthcoming year. And we have a reserve fund set up to purchase that time out if employees choose not to use that time off and instead get compensated for it. And so there's a benefit here in having this fund available and having employees purchase out time, because buying out time at today's pay rate is cheaper than buying it out at future pay rates or at the end of their career here when their pay rate is higher, and therefore it would cost the town more money to compensate them for that unused time.
Okay, any comments or questions in regards to Article 13?
All right, so I will move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 13.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, Article 13 moves to the ballot as written. Moving on to Article 14, contribution to the town revaluation capital reserve fund.
James.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'd like to move Article 14 to the floor as presented.
Second.
And Jim, you're going to talk to this one?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Moderator. So, in accordance with RSA 75-8A, every town in the state is required to do a revaluation of property in each town every 5 years. And what we do with this fund is, rather than put a full bill in 1 year for what the cost would be, and for the way that we do it, which is not the full measure and list, but the not the full measure and list, but the statistical reval. Thank you. We do the statistical reval. The cost for that is about $70,000. So what we try to do is break this up over that time period. That's why you see $12,500, and we have about $34,000 in the fund currently.
Okay. Any comments or questions in regards to this article? No. Okay.
All right, so I'll move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 14.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Article 14 moves to the ballot as written. Moving on to Article 15, contribution to the EPA Stormwater Capital Reserve Fund.
I'd like to move Article 15 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Jonathan?
Yes, so contribution to the EPA Stormwater Capital Reserve Fund. So this is MS4, which began in the early 2010 and is an unfunded mandate from the federal government regarding stormwater on public properties. So this program requires more work to be performed every year.
Okay, any comments or questions in regards to Article 15? Okay,
All right, so I'll move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 15.
second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, Article 15 moves to the ballot as written. Article 16, contribution to the Town Land Environmental Remediation Capital Reserve Fund.
I'd like to move Article 16 to the floor as presented.
Second?
Second.
Jim, can you speak to it?
I will. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Through what we now know about the PFAS and PFOA, we do know that there were issues that may be connected with using firefighter or using foam at fire departments. And so we were required, the town was required to do testing and certainly possible remediation for any contamination that we may have. There are several monitoring wells that we have around town, specifically around the fire station and now the new fire station. And this cost is necessary, or this deposit is necessary into this fund for any remediation and continued evaluation that we are going to have.
Comments or questions in regards to Article 16? Okay,
All right, I'll move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 16.
second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Article 16 moves to the ballot as written. Article 17, establish Rail Trail Capital Reserve Fund.
I'd like to move Article 17 to the floor as presented.
Second.
And James, I think you're
Yep.
going to speak to it?
So I think everyone's familiar with the rail trail now being open this year. It's already a great asset to the town. And the purpose of this article is to establish a reserve fund and put a small amount of money into it so that we have available monies to be used in the event opportunities arise to make improvements to the trail. These could include things like signage, kiosks, trailhead improvements, benches out on the trail. And while we can budget for some of those in advance, sometimes opportunities arise where we can either directly ourselves or join with other communities to apply for grant monies, and we have to have our portion of the grant available. Just as an example of this is the next portion of the trail that will be done next year goes from here in Northampton to Drakeside Road in Hampton. But after that, there's planning and engineering money needed for continuing the trail further south there through Hampton Falls and into Seabrook. We partnered with several other communities along the trail, Portsmouth, Greenland Rye, Hampton, to apply for a grant for those planning and engineering funds. And so our portion of that was about $6,000, but that will be a benefit to extend that trail, make the trail more usable for all the communities along. So having this money available for instances like that where we can make those improvements or participate in those grant opportunities is the reason for establishing and funding this.
Comments or questions?
Tracy Williams, 129 Walnut Ave. I just had a question. Is there any reason why private funds or donated funds could be used to also make improvements to the rail trail?
Yes, private monies can be used for that, and
Okay.
actually the Seacoast Greenway Association Alliance, which is a not-for-profit that was formed to help maintain and develop the trail, has actively gone out and sought monies for that. For example, all the signage you see on the trail, the mile markers, that was all paid for with private donations. So there are the kiosk that was installed here in Northampton was from the Fuller Foundation here in Northampton,
Okay.
a grant, a donation like that. So there are opportunities for that, and we do take advantage of those whenever they arise.
Okay, great. I was just thinking while you were speaking that sometimes graduating classes from Winnicott High School want to buy a bench and put it somewhere.
Yes,
and
those
we-
sponsorship opportunities will be available for signage, for benches, for potentially a large trailhead in Hampton. I know the Rotary Club in Hampton is looking at making a donation that might be used for the trailhead that would be behind the town center in Hampton there. So there's definitely folks who are out there soliciting those donations and putting them to use.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have to stand up if I want to ask? a
No,
question?
Lisa, you're right in front of the
Do
microphone.
I have to tell you where I live and everything?
No, you just have to state your name.
Okay, Lisa Gallagher. I'm the one who voted against this, and the reason is because I don't know why you need to have another fund to fund this. Why can't this be a line item, part of the Department of Public Works or Maintenance? And as you actually said, I was going to mention, you could offer opportunities to people, companies, to sponsor benches, sponsor whatever you need to have. There's no reason to have one more fund in this town, especially for $10,000. Really? I just don't see a reason. So what I'd like to do is make a motion to amend this to say $0 as opposed to $10,000. I guess I can't make a motion to get rid of the fund because it's already been approved.
Right, you can't get rid of the article, but you can change the dollar
So I'd
amount.
like to change the dollar amount to 0.
Okay, is there a second on that motion anywhere? Who seconded? Was that Janet? Janet was your second. Does anyone want to comment on the motion, on the amendment that's on the floor right now?
Kirsten Larson Schultz, Post Road. I just would like to echo the previous two statements. I'm wondering if anybody, we have this wonderful business association in town, a lot of great businesses. I'm sure they would be more than willing to have a name on a sign on a bench, and I think that, to Lisa's point, is a much better way to get this done. Thank you.
Okay.
Again, Lisa Gallagher, it's just not necessary to
Can I-
have a separate fund, that's all.
Go ahead.
I would argue to the contrary, that this does have an advantage in that there are, as I said, those grant opportunities that arise where we as a town can participate for grants that often are restricted to municipalities applying for them. The grant for the extension of the trail was an example of that, where that has to be applied for by a municipality. So participating as a municipality is important. There are significant amounts of money being raised privately to do things, but not all of it can be raised privately in some circumstances. So establishing this fund rather than budgeting for it allows us, when those opportunities arise, to put the money to work, without having to wait a year for a new budget to pass that might appropriate those funds and lose out on opportunities that might be time limited.
Come on up.
Hi, Tracy Williams again, 129 Walnut. I didn't want my question to be interpreted as opposition. It really wasn't, so.
No, I didn't.
I know, I
That's-
just
that's
want
okay.
everybody
Yeah.
in my town to also know that I support this article, but didn't know if there were restrictions on the trail itself, so, thank you.
Anne Marie, come on up.
Anne Marie Banfield, Highlander Drive. The $10,000, is this going to be annual? How does this look in the future if we're setting up a fund? What is it going to be 10? I mean, I know you probably can't give a dollar amount, but can you give us an idea? Is this something that taxpayers are going to pay for every year? How does that look like in the future?
There's no, can I?
Yeah, you can.
There's no specific plans to have this as an annual thing. I think it's because the trail is so new, we'll see what opportunities arise. If none of this money is expended in the next year, I wouldn't expect we would be back with another similar warrant article next year. But if those opportunities do arise and this money is expended, I would expect we would perhaps come back with a request and explain how the money was spent and what it was used for and what the benefit is, and explain why we're looking to fund it with additional monies.
Madam Moderator, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes?
James, from what you said and getting the matching grants, do you need a fund set up so that you can receive those grants? Is that how that works?
No, not necessarily. But sometimes the grant opportunities come up and they're time limited. And if it's something we haven't budgeted for and don't have the funds to pull out of the current budget, then we might not have the ability to participate in something like that match.
Yep, because it's a match, so you need to have the reserves on hand in order to.
Yes, in those instances, again, this is more intended for, if we have an appropriation that we want to do that is just the town, say we were going to do some improvements on a trailhead or things like that, we would, it's not time sensitive, then we can put those into the budget and appropriate for them in the budget as we normally do. But like I said, if opportunities arise where we have a time limit on getting the benefit, having this fund available to address those opportunities is the reason for it.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't usually ask a question, but I'm going to ask a question. Can private citizens or groups donate into the fund once you have it established?
I don't believe they can donate into this fund, but they can donate to the Seacoast Greenway, which is a not-for-profit that is raising money to do trail projects.
Okay. Kathy, go ahead, come on up.
Kathleen Kilgore, 220 Atlantic Avenue. I have two questions now. Is there a reason why this has been set up as a reserve fund and not a revolving fund? Because I believe if it was a revolving fund, they could accept donations from private citizens to assist. And then my second question is, we're only talking $10,000, as Mrs. Gallagher said. How realistic is that we could not come up with $10,000 out of a budget that this wasn't planned on? How, I believe you guys return unexpended funds to the fund balance every year.
Does anyone want to answer that?
Yeah, I would say the capital reserve fund versus revolving fund, I don't know the specifics of. So, but with regards to the amount, frankly, because we wanted to put this on the ballot and see if the town wanted to establish this fund, we didn't want to choose to fund it with a large amount of money out of the gate. There could be much larger projects that the town could benefit from. Trailhead construction is a significant one. That DOT lot where we have established parking along with DOT at the south end of town in cooperation with DOT. Our hope is that in the future they turn that entire lot over to us, and there could be an opportunity to do more with that trailhead. So there could be an opportunity further down the road for more significant projects, but we wanted to put this on with a modest request, modest ask of the town, and see what the town feels about it by putting it on the ballot and having people vote on it. With regards to reserve versus revolving, I don't know the specific rules around those two types of funds off the top of my head.
I think Ryan's looking into that right now.
I mean, I will say, I myself am not aware of funds where residents donate into a town reserve fund.
Can we get this answer, unless, do you have the answer to this question?
No, I have a question.
Okay, so let's see if we can get the answer to this
Okay.
question, then we can go to your question.
So revolving funds have specific reasons that they can be started, and we didn't feel that this fell under that reason. We can go back and recheck that and see maybe for the future if that works, but that's why we went with Capital Reserve Fund.
My question is to the select board.
You need to state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul Martino, Shiprock Road. My question is to the select board. In looking at the Hobbs Special Fund, it seems like there's a similar use that is designated for beautification of the town. Would that be an appropriate fund to use for such projects if they came up and were available to us?
I'm not familiar with I'm not familiar with that fund and the rules around how the money can be spent. Are you, Jim?
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, there's $52,000 in it, that's why I asked.
$2,000 in it.
Just looking at the Madam Moderator? Just looking at the specifics of the fund, 20% is to be used for maintenance of the town hall clock, and the remaining 80% for town beautification projects, with priority given to the maintenance of the bank at the end of the town green. So maybe that might be an idea to put it into the Hobbs Fund, but I think you'd need to amend the purpose of the Hobbs Fund.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, so just a reminder, we still have an amendment on the table to zero this out. So any other questions in regards to this?
Yeah.
Bill, come on up.
Phil Wilson, 9 Runny, coming through, is it? Phil Wilson, 9 Runnymede Drive. First of all, if you zero this out, that means you can't establish a fund because there's no
No,
money
you
in
would
it.
still establish
You
a
could
fund. It would have
fund-
$0 in
Okay.
it.
The second point I wanted to make, though, is that it would seem to me that, given this discussion that's going on, I'm in favor of doing this now, but I would say for next year, what we ought to do is establish either within an existing board of the town or create one specifically, because the rail trail has real potential for the town. We have responsibility for maintaining it. Why don't we establish make a subcommittee of the select board or whatever, conservation commission, and establish within that a fund to which the town can contribute money and people can contribute money as they can to the Conservation Commission, for example, for marsh projects, for example, of that. And so this issue of whether you can contribute or not, and whether it's revolving or a settled fund or whatever would go away, because we know that under that other structure, you can accept public money, you can accept private money, and you could do it, you can even raise money for specific projects like buying land for conservation, as we did with Northampton Forever. So net of what I'm saying is I'm opposed to the amendment. I'm in favor of the provision of money for the rail trail, and I think we ought to do some thinking about how best to accomplish what we need to do, maintain the trail, have opportunities for improvements, and maybe for special projects that we want to do on our own.
Okay, any other comments or questions
Yeah, I
in
have
regards
one
to this?
last one. I just want you to know, I don't object to the rail trail. I love it. I take my grandchildren down it. It's not that. It's that the use of the funds. We have the fund. The town has the money, and it should be part of the Department of Public Works as a line expense item every year. That's all. It's just, whatever we spend to maintain the rail trail. You don't need to raise more money, and if you do, then some of the comments here about getting people to sponsor or give money, they certainly are willing to do things. They can do things like that. That's all.
Okay.
I just don't think we need another fund. Well, it doesn't
Kathy?
matter.
Kathleen Kilgore, 220 Atlantic Avenue. I just want to make it very clear that I have always been a supporter of the rail trail, and I continue to be a supporter of the rail trail. I was just looking at different options to have the money for special projects and to meet grants.
Okay. Any other comments on this?
Madam Moderator.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Just to answer the question that was asked earlier about the revolving funds, 3195H New Hampshire RSC says the town may vote to establish legislative body, establish a revolving fund. Each revolving fund shall be limited to one of the following purposes, and they go from A through G. and none of them fit this. It's facilitating, maintaining, or encouraging recycling, providing ambulance services, providing public safety services by municipal employees, creating affordable housing, facilitating transactions relative thereto, providing cable access for public educational government use, financing of energy conservation and efficiency, and facilitating transactions relative to municipal group net metering. So unfortunately, the way a town is set up, we can only do what the state allows us to do in RSAs, and it isn't covered in a revolving fund.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, so the amendment that we are voting on is to change this article to read that, to see if the town will vote to establish a capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the purpose of making improvements, maintenance, and repairs related to the rail trail, and to raise and appropriate through taxation the sum of $0 for deposit into the fund, and to name the select board as agents to expend the fund. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, motion fails. Any other comments or questions in regard? Frank, come on up.
Frank Ferraro, Post Road. First, I want to say I want to thank all the town officials and employees and volunteer residents that worked on the rail trail. And personally, I can't wait until spring when my wife forces me to get on a bicycle I haven't used in 6 or 7 years and ride on the rail trail with her. But I want to suggest maybe a compromise between the last, the proposed amendment and this one. I agree that, and I think one of the rare times Phil and I kind of agree is this should be something we do every year. It should just be in the general fund, because the purpose stated in the article is for improvements, maintenance, and repair. That's not really a capital reserve fund item. And frankly, if you saw the list of capital reserves that was in the list, I think that Mr. Majori raised, it's several pages long. I want to propose an amendment. And Article 17, I changed the title to just Rail Trail Improvement and Maintenance. And it would read, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate through taxation the sum of $5,000 for the purpose of making improvements, maintenance, and repairs related to the rail trail, ? Said funds are to be held in the town's general fund for use by the Department of Public Works. Now, really, this is a maintenance and repair with maybe some occasional improvements. That's the purpose of the fund and the subject matter of the article. So I haven't changed the subject matter at all. And really, doing maintenance and repairs should be in the DPW's budget. But I also agree that we should be recruiting businesses and organizations. If you remember way back to 2018, I helped craft the language for the warrant article, citizen petition warrant article, for a van for the Recreation Department. And in it, we made it a public-private partnership. And through that, and raising donations, we cut the cost to the taxpayer for a van in half. So doing that now, looking for businesses to put up benches, or organizations or individuals to sponsor a bench or a kiosk, or do like they do for highways, adopt a mile, where they would do the cleanup and the brush trimming. So I'm proposing that as the amendment. Yep.
Since you wrote it out, can I have it? Do I have a second for this amendment? Comments or questions in regards to this amendment?
Well, my first question is, I don't know if that changes the purpose of the warrant article, because the purpose of the warrant article is to establish a reserve fund. My second my comment is, I agree about the public-private partnerships. All of those things are being done. We've paid for the kiosk with donated money. The mile markers were with donated money. All of this happens in cooperation with Seacoast Greenway Alliance. So all of those things are actually happening. And I would note that the primary purpose of this is not maintenance, it's improvements, repairs. We could have repairs that are unexpected, that need to, if the trail is damaged or there's a storm that damages the trail and we have an unexpected large repair. So we have building funds that do the same sorts of things for unexpected occurrences. So this is for unanticipated opportunities for improvements. It's for unanticipated repairs. I mean, yes, you could say maintenance. We're going to be doing maintenance on the trail, but the primary purpose of this fund is not maintenance.
Madam Moderator, may I respond? Yeah, I agree that, and I acknowledge that there is private donations and improvements. As to your first point, in fact, I kept the language which says for the purpose of improvements, maintenance, and repairs. And the subject matter is the rail trail and improvements, maintenance, and repairs. So I haven't changed the subject matter nor the purpose, although the purpose is not protected under the court decision. The subject matter is. And so, again, yes, unexpected repairs, but there's unexpected repairs that come up throughout the town, and money is found to do that. And I'm putting in $5,000 for a brand-new rail trail that hopefully won't need any significant repairs more than $5,000. If somebody wants to change the dollar amount, I have no opposition to that. But I'm trying to make this into part of the general fund, the budget, and the DPW's ongoing budget, because that's where it really should be, not in yet another capital reserve fund.
Madam Moderator, will you please reread the language?
Yeah, sure. Rail trail improvement and maintenance, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate through taxation the sum of $5,000 for the purpose of making improvements, maintenance, and repairs related to the rail trail. Said funds are to be held in the town's general fund for use by the Department of Public Works. Did you have public meetings in regards to the fund ahead of time? No, right?
Public meetings and for what fund?
Specifically for establishing this fund?
No.
Okay, yeah.
And could I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
And I know I'm supposed to ask from the moderator, but if Mr. Ferraro is trying to make the warrant article a lapsing warrant article as opposed to a capital reserve fund, is that the point of this? We're just trying to make sure we get it right on our end.
I'm trying to not make this a capital reserve fund and make it, this one would be a one-time fund, but it would establish the precedent of putting money into the operating budget in the DPW's line items.
So your thought process, just so everybody knows, a capital reserve fund, the money stays in there from year to year. So if you don't use it, it stays in and could be used the next year. This sets it so that we would put it in this year. It would be available this year. It would lapse if it's not used at the end of the year. And then what Mr. Ferraro is suggesting is that maybe we put that $5,000 into the Public Works budget moving forward. Would that be correct? Yes. Thank you, sir.
And was there a question over here? Larry? I think so. Is it on? That would be helpful.
Oh, was mine not on? What? I'm sorry.
Larry, here you go. I think we're spending way too much time on $10,000, which isn't going to go away if we don't spend it. First of all, Secondly, the purpose of it being called capital is because it will stay in the funds will remain unless spent. They'll be available any day of the year. And unspent funds in the select board, in the town budget, really only become evident toward the end of the year. So if something happens and someone says, hey, if you'll kick in 10 grand in this and you'll be part of this grant and you'll get back $20,000 and we don't have the money available, it's just not going to be possible. The town has the legal responsibility, once accepted, to maintain it, and that's it. So I think we're spending way too much time. And the other thing is the capital involves possibly capital expense. So I think we should move on. I'm opposed to the amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions in
Given that
regard to
one
this?
doesn't work.
Okay, then we're gonna vote on the amendment. The amendment is to change the article to state rail trail improvement and maintenance to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate through taxation the sum of $5,000 for the purpose of making improvements, maintenance, and repairs related to the rail trail. Said funds are to be held in the town's general fund for use by the Department of Public Works. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, motion fails. Any other comments or questions in regards to the rail trail? Okay.
All right, so I'm going
Jonathan.
to move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 17.
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Moving on to Article 18, close the Safety Building Capital Project Fund.
All right, so,
I'll move Article 18 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Jonathan?
all right, so very good news. So it looks like we are under budget. So the safety complex is near completion. We are still finalizing the cost. So the board has stated any access funds will be used to lower the tax rate in November of 2025.
Any comments or questions in regards to this article? Jonathan? Oh, there is one. Sorry, I didn't even see you,
That's
Kirsten.
fine. Kirsten Larson Schultz, 121 Post Road. I just want to clarify, because I want to make sure I understood correctly. So we don't know how much money this warrant article is going to move. And then I think I just heard that it's going to go to lower the tax rate, but it goes to the general fund, correct?
I didn't hear lower the
Again,
tax rate.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, if this is adopted, it will close the fund. We expect everything, and we've been, all the contractors and vendors working on it, they know we're working to close out the project. We right now don't have any anticipated final invoices, but if we do, they would be paid for out of this. And the end of the fiscal year, this would close the fund. The funds, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, the funds would fall into the general fund, and then at the end of the fiscal year, into the undesignated fund balance. And therefore, whatever that number is that falls through the general fund to the undesignated fund balance, which is something we discussed back when the project was approved, if that's left over, we would use that that amount explicitly to lower the tax rate when we set the taxes in November, rather than keep that money in the general fund, so that we're doing what we can to keep the tax rate down from the cost of this project.
I know it's early in the morning and I haven't had a lot of coffee, but that's not what is going on the ballot that voters would vote on, correct? There's no mention of specifically lowering the tax rate. Am I reading this correctly?
Well, I don't think,
No.
we
It's
can't
a
bind
closing
a
of the
select
fund.
board like, I don't think
Yeah,
we can
you
bind a
can't
select
bind
board
that
like that.
select
But
board.
what we have stated is, at least for the members on the select board, the intention is to do that, but it's, the select board in November are the ones who would have to actually vote to do that now.
Okay, so
But-
we're
but
voting on, we don't know how much money to go into the general fund.
That's right.
We
Thank
don't
you.
know, but we'll close that fund, and whatever money is left will drop to the general fund and then to the undesignated fund balance.
Hi, Janet Larson, 121 Post Road. Just to clarify the last sentence in this article, says approval of this article will have no effect on the tax rate. I'm just wondering if that negates the idea.
No, as I said, the select board that is present in November will be the ones who vote to use those funds to reduce the tax rate. But that is a pledge that this board has made. So that is not an explicit guarantee. We have said.
I understand that. My question is different. Sorry for interrupting. I just feel like the last sentence is not necessary because it says approval of this article will have no effect on the tax rate.
Well, that is correct. Approval of this article that closes the fund and drops that money to the undesignated fund balance will not have an effect on the tax rate. There is a effect on the tax rate next November if and when the select board that is seated in November chooses to use those funds to reduce the tax rate.
Right. So I'm just questioning if you need that sentence at all.
Well, it's a fact.
Wait,
closing this fund does not affect, closing the fund does not affect the tax rate.
Right.
Legally, we have to have that,
And
right? I mean, that's something that the state recommends because it's not raising funds, correct?
So it's because there's no appropriation is why it says that, but it's not something that DIRA requires to be there. If it was removed, we don't
It would be
believe that it
okay.
would come back and
Okay. It just seemed like it was saying something that didn't need to be said. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this article? Yeah, you could if she wanted to. You don't, Janet, right? Okay. Okay. Right. Any other comments or questions in regards to this?
All right, so I'm going to move to restrict reconsideration of article number 18.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Article 18 moves to the ballot as written. Article 19, modify veteran tax credit.
I'd like to move Article 19 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Jim?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So we are going to modify the veterans' tax credit from the $500 up to the maximum allowed in statute 7228-2, and that will be $750. This is consistent with other Rockingham County communities, and certainly our veterans are deserving of what we can provide.
Okay, any comments or questions on Article 19?
I'll move to restrict reconsideration of article number 19.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, Article 19 moves to the ballot as is. Article 20, re-adopt veteran tax credit.
I'll move Article 20 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Jim?
Yes, thank you. And anytime you change one of the tax credits, you have to re-adopt the tax credit.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Any comments or questions in regards to that?
I will move to restrict reconsideration of article number 20.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Article 20 moves to the ballot as written. Article 21, modify elderly exemption from property tax.
I'd move Article 21 to the floor as presented.
Second.
James?
This is a modification to the elderly exemption from property tax. Last year, we had a warrant article to modify this elderly exemption where it raised the dollar amounts of the portion of the exempted property to the numbers you see here, 170, 225, and $275,000. We were mistaken in that last year when we thought the RSA was stipulated the income limits for that exemption, but we were incorrect about that. So we're coming back again this year to ask folks to raise the income limits that go along with that elderly exemption. That would be raising them from $40,800 to $44,000 and $59,000 to $63,000. and the net assets, excluding the residents, to $190,000. We looked at the other communities in Rockingham County. This would put us sort of in the upper portion, upper 10 communities in Rockingham County, and commensurate with neighboring communities for these exemptions.
Okay, comments or questions in regard to this article?
Lori Cotter, 168 Mill Road. I'd like to ask for a point of clarification. Did the upping of the exemption correlate with the new assessed values of the homes? What percentage?
I don't know what percentage it related to reassessed values. What we did was look at other communities in Rockingham County and around the state as to what dollars are exempted, a number of which are on the same reassessment schedule as us, so that we looked at that. And I don't know off the top of my head what we raised those from last year. I'd have to go back and look at that information, but we did try to raise them to amount to be in the upper portion of Rockingham County, given our assessments, and looking at what surrounding communities are doing. But I don't know exactly how that relates to current, percentage-wise to current assessments.
Madam Moderator, may I ask another question?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. The net income, I see 44,000 married, 60,000. Do we do a blanket approval of this, or is it done on a case-by-case basis?
Folks have to apply for the exemption. So there's an application form for this and any of the other exemptions that exist. That application goes to the town's assessor, who reviews the application, verifies that they're eligible for it, and then it goes to the select board for approval.
Okay, and one,
Go ahead, Laura.
is the town's welfare able to help out in certain circumstances?
We do have a general assistance fund, and so folks can apply to that fund, and our welfare officer reviews their cases as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Other comments or questions?
I'll try to speak up. Paul Zalamis, 46-year resident and a elderly exemption receiver. 77 years old and one of 62 people who are getting the exemption from property taxes. Okay, now I see I can ask questions, I will. Okay, when I see the income limit is 190, and when was the last time that was risen? When's the last time you adjusted that?
The net asset limit of 190,000?
Yes.
I'd have to look and see if that was addressed in last year's warrant article.
We're checking to see
We're
if that
checking.
number
I
was
believe
changed
it was
last year.
2018.
When we see the warrant.
Can I continue?
Yeah.
Well, they're looking for the answer for that question.
Well, this is part of it.
Okay, go ahead.
And the raising the income level $3,000, I believe is ineffectual, completely ineffectual. Okay, so I'd like to continue now. Okay, so with all due respect to the moderator, I welcome her interruption at any time during my consideration.
Thank you, Paul.
I would like to thank Mr. Majori, our outgoing selectman, for his generous tenure serving on our select board and for his previous work to modify our senior exemptions from property tax. And if I may, I would like to also ask him to take a leadership role to navigate and safeguard the interests of the elderly residents of Northampton in the future. Okay. To engage the residents in important decisions and to ensure your open, honest communication among the Northampton residents, I'm asking the governing body to please continue and finish last year's elderly exemption modification. I would like to ask the Select Board and Budget Committee to please modify Article 21 as written to change the amounts of the limit qualifications to read income limit not more than $50,000 for single and $65,000 for married, and own assets of not more than $250,000 for single and a combined asset of not more than $250,000. If yes, I would like you to bring it to a vote with the new amounts. If no, I would like to continue my consideration with an alternate modification.
Okay, so you're proposing an amendment that will change in addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $50,000.
Well, may I interrupt? I'm not posing an amendment.
You're not posing an amendment?
No, I'm asking the governing body to modify the warrant.
This is the governing body at this meeting.
Right.
So if we're going to modify this amendment, it has to be the governing body that modifies the amendment, the article. So you do not want to ask the governing body to vote on this? No, because we've got one on the floor, kind of.
No, I want to see if they're going to say yes before they vote.
Madam Moderator? Thank you, Paul, very much for those kind words. I can tell you that on Tuesday, there'll be 11 bills heard in municipal and county government with regard to tax exemptions, including elderly tax exemptions. So there is a statewide effort, or there's an effort to do this statewide right now, and I'll be happy to keep you informed of the progress that is made in Concord.
Yeah, I just saw a,
Okay, hold on, wait, we have one more comment around your comment.
Madam Moderator, I'd like to know if I can make an amendment of Article 21.
Oh, so this relates to this comment here? Okay, so you'd like to make his amendment?
I'd like to make amendments to read, in addition, the taxpayers must have a net income of not more than $50,000 if married, a combined income of less than $65,000, and own assets not in excess of $250,000.
Okay.
Excluding the value of the person's residence.
Do I have a second to that amendment? Okay, Lori Potter is the second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Are there any comments around this amendment that's on the floor? No? Come on up, Janet.
I'm sure people have heard me tell this little story before, but when I was door knocking in the fall, I met a couple who live here in Northampton. Actually, I met the wife because her 88-year-old husband was working a part-time job at a local hardware store, so they could afford to pay their increase in their property taxes. And I just wanted to say that it seems like when we question amounts like $10,000 for certain things or $5,000, people think we're being picky. But really, as T.A. Tully said one time, the things that we approve here and the monies that are in our budget are what determines the property tax. So $10,000 off out of the budget might not sound a lot to us, but to the couple, the 85-year-old wife and the 88-year-old husband, it means a lot. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Can I?
Go ahead,
One
James.
comment. I'm looking to Ryan and Mike to correct me if I'm wrong. Just so folks have some context for this, I believe that the estimated impact of the changes that were proposed in the article as written, raising it to 44 and 63 and 190, our assessor estimated there might be roughly a $15,000 impact based on, again, it's an estimate because we don't know additional people who might be applying for the exemption under these criteria, but his estimate was that the proposed changes were about $15,000. So without having the assessor go back through that, I couldn't say what this would do, but that just gives some context to the degree that this affects our tax collections.
May I speak again? Paul Salamas?
Right, but remember, we're speaking specifically about this amendment to this.
I was just going to answer his comment.
Oh, go ahead then, Paul, go ahead.
Okay, so I really don't like having the elderly referred to as what he just said, impact. It's negative. They're not a spreadsheet, not on a spreadsheet. These should be referred to as an asset, not a liability.
Janet?
I just wanted to clarify that I am in support of this amendment and wasn't trying to infer that this was going to cost us more money
You
and raise our taxes.
sounded like you were in support.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other comments on this, or can we vote on this one? Okay, I'm just going to read the change once again so everyone knows what they're voting on. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $50,000, or if married, a combined net income of not less than $65,000, and own net assets not in excess of $250,000, excluding the value of the person's residence. All those in favor? Tell me when you guys have a full count. Actually, it looks, I'm pretty okay with this. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Any other comments or questions in regards to elderly housing? Come on up, Anne Marie.
What they actually change it to? 50 and 65 and 250.
Anne Marie Banfield, Highlander Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank the gentleman for speaking on behalf of people in our community that a lot of times will not come and share that information with us. It's humbling sometimes. I don't fit into this category, but this is the category of people that oftentimes go completely unnoticed in beautiful towns like this. So I just want to thank you for bringing that to our attention. And yeah, I would echo Janet's comment, $10,000, you know, when we just kind of flush that off and like, these are the people that we need to keep in mind no matter what the amount is. So thank
Okay.
you.
Any other new comments or questions in regards to this? Larry?
No comment. I want to move the motion as amended.
Oh, you want to stop comments?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think there are any others, Larry. Okay, so that was,
So I'm going to move to restrict reconsideration of article number 21.
Larry's going to wholeheartedly second that. Okay, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes, Larry. We can move on to Article 22. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, we can. Article 22, Heritage Commission membership.
I'll move Article 22 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Jim?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So what we are trying to do very simply with the Heritage Commission membership is to bring it in line with current statute 673-4A. And the reason for that is back in 1992, the town created the Historic District Commission with 5 members and 5 alternates. Well, that's all good. And then in 1997, the town voted to actually abolish the Historic Commission and create the Heritage Commission. And in doing so, said Heritage Commission shall consist of 5 members appointed by the planning board with the approval of the selectmen, and left off the alternates. And in looking back in all of the minutes from 1992 and 1997, I cannot find, and the Heritage Commission could not find, reason why it would be limited to that way. So what we are trying to do with this article is simply to bring the membership of the Heritage Commission, in line with statute. And that will be, as it says here, you can have not more than 7 members and not more than 5 alternates for terms staggered, for 3-year terms staggered.
Any comments or questions on this?
Kirsten Larson Schultz, still 121 Post Road. I would just like clarification on how alternates get picked, because there seems to be a little confusion for our various boards and committees. Thank you.
No confusion at the Heritage Commission. Any member, any resident can come in and volunteer, and then the Heritage Commission makes the recommendation to the Select Board. Then the Select Board approves.
Okay. Any other comments or questions in regards to this?
All right, so I'll move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 22.
Larry, you want a second? All those in favor? Anyone against? Article 22 moves to the ballot as written. Moving on to Article 23, Friends of Centennial Hall by citizens petition.
I'll move Article 23 to the floor as presented.
Second.
Is there anyone from this article that's going to speak to it? Oh, come on up.
Hi, I'm Jen King, 39 Hobbs Road, Vice President of Centennial Hall. Thank you for letting me to speak to this. Centennial Hall has been partnering with the town since it first purchased the hall in 1998. We are grateful for the town's previous support and ongoing partnership. For those of you who are new to the town or have not yet come in for a tour, let me say quickly who we are and what we offer. The Friends of Centennial Hall purchased the historic building in 1998 as it was falling into disrepair with limited occupiable areas. I'll spare you all the details of every step of the renovation, but we've done a lot inside and out. For now, we have a visual, and I asked Kirsten if she offered to hold it up for us, so you can see just what the difference is on the outside. It was originally donated to the town for use as a school and community gathering place by John W.F. Hobbs in 1876 and has been a centerpiece of the town ever since. The building fell into private hands for many years after the new school was built. When it was listed for sale and there were threats to demolish it, citizens who saw the value of this gem came together to preserve it, forming the nonprofit Friends of Centennial Hall. I'm proud to say that with your help, we've brought it back both its shine and its usefulness. After extensive renovations funded by LCHIP, local foundations, the town, its generous citizens and businesses, we can now rent out the first 3 floors, including the ballroom, which is a long time coming, and have hosted a wide variety of tenants over the years, including Seacoast Academy of Music, Northampton Bridge Club and Sanctioned Bridge Play, Seacoast Civic Dance Company, Boy Scouts, Arts and Reach, Brush and Palette art lessons, toddler groups, music lessons, yoga classes, and more. We've also hosted a myriad of events, including town-wide gatherings at no charge to the town. We have a memorandum of understanding with the town that says we want to work together with the town and share this resource with the town. It's really important that we have your support going forward. The kinds of gatherings we've already hosted are the annual tree lighting receptions, Old Home Day offerings, Winterfest activities, a school play teaser, community teas and open houses, chili cook-offs, and we someday hope to work to keep the bandstand concerts on track, rain or shine. Other events that help sustain the cost of the building include political candidates. We are a nonpartisan organization. We've had people from both sides. Private events, including holiday parties, baby showers, birthday parties, and celebrations of life. Educational events such as horticultural presentations, historical society lecture, preservation trainings, and whoever wants to be the first wedding reception in the newly renovated ballroom, let us know. Here's the catch. We need reliable heat upstairs. At the tree lighting this year, the guests had to keep their coats on. We have the power of our updated furnace, but we need help with the old radiators and registers so that we can control the zones. This is no small task. Please understand that we as an organization do not benefit from the building. We are 100% volunteers and donate our own time and money to the hall for benefit of the town. Improved heat will allow for more income to operate the building and help with future improvements. The building is self-sustaining, but we do need grants and we do need town support for further renovations. Let me tell you really quickly about our reputation. We're a 3-time LCHIP grant recipient and have been called the poster child of preservation success in the state. We operate under a preservation agreement and receive the largest LCHIP grant on the Seacoast because of the support we've gotten from previous warrant articles from the community. It was really big. Like they were saying, it helps you get other grants to have the community support. We've received accolades from Governor Sununu, Senator Maggie Hassan, and Senator Jean Shaheen, Representative Chris Pappas, as well as the 2024 Preservation Achievement Award from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance and the Elizabeth Durkee Hengen Award for contributions to preservation. We're asking Northampton's public to support the warrant Article 23. If you have stepped up and supported us in the past, or you have stepped up and supported us in the past, we hope you'll do it again. Just as we talked about today, public-private partnerships are not unique in the state of New Hampshire. Many towns have supported their local gathering places. Londonderry helps support its Grange. Littleton helps support its community house annex. Gilmanton provides half of the library's operating funds, even though it's a separate nonprofit. And as we said, the Seacoast Greenway today is another great example. Your support makes me proud to live in this community. Northampton recognizes the importance and charm of local historical landmarks, and we are on the National Historic Register, the Centennial Hall. Northampton sees the impact of the creative economy, which what I mean by this is that when people come to their club meetings, their music lessons, all the different events we have there, they also bring their wallets and they shop in town, they get meals in town, they pick up their groceries. So it adds to the community economically as well. Northampton values the arts and cultural events and values the chance to share experiences with neighbors and friends. Help us continue to come together to fully utilize the hall and continue its rich history. Please support Article 23. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Any comments or questions in regards to this article? Come on up.
Kirsten Larson Schultz, Post Road. I just have a comment. I found myself thinking about this article in our discussion of the rail trail article. Mr. Sununu had said and stressed the importance of the town putting forth money so that there will have ability for to apply for grants. And it's my understanding that that is the exact same situation here. Thank you.
Camera, come on up.
Thank you. Tamara Lay, 92 Walnut Avenue, and I rise in support of Article 23. But first, please let me thank you all for sitting here. We're the last ones to speak today, and it's much appreciated for your time, your talents, your energy, and putting up with those of us. I was thinking this morning as I pulled out of my driveway, I've been here over 25 years. And when I pulled out of that driveway onto Walnut Avenue, I thought back to Dick and Mary Lou Walmar. They're the folks who we bought our property from. And when we came to visit the property, there were all these signs in the yard, all these people running for office. And I said, Dick, what is this? Who are these people? And he said, well, I know some of them, but others, you know, they're just good people. And that's what it takes to run a little town like this, is for people to step up and people to volunteer. So on behalf of all of you who've probably schlepped and put up signs, I thank you. And then Mary Lou pulled me aside and she said, oh, and by the way, if you live on Walnut Avenue, you have to volunteer. You have to go out there and do this. So that's why part of the reason I'm rising today. Dick and Mary Lou were very special to us. But Walnut Avenue is very special, and at the end of Walnut Avenue is this amazing building. I worked in nonprofits my whole life, and it's really rare. I cannot stress enough how rare it is to have such a strong, I guess for lack of a better phrase, public-private partnership. I mean, this really is about community. And I find over the years, I stop in, you know, periodically to the Centennial Hall. My kids got their, they bridged in Girl Scouts. They had music lessons. I attended when former Governor Sununu visited and spoke about what a gem it was. But these folks have really gone to bat for us. I have a list of nearly 20 grants. I won't read them all. For lack of time today. But they've gone local, national, and I think we as citizens can step up. You know, beyond those of us on Walnut Avenue, those of us in Northampton can step up and contribute a little piece to, well, I guess keep us warm in the wintertime when we want to go to events. But again, I just want to thank you for your time and your consideration. And I would hope that you would move unanimously to support our gem. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions in regards to Centennial Hall?
Kathleen Kilgore, 220 Atlantic Avenue. I am in support of this petition. This is an amazing public and private collaboration. I am so proud that it happens here in our town. And I'll remind all that we have already invested a couple warrant articles that have passed. I believe the most recent one was we helped with the fire suppression system. This $41,700, as we all know, we all need heat for our buildings in order for our houses and our commercial business buildings to remain safe. And this is just adding to that. The Friends of Centennial Hall are always open. They always are welcoming to have anyone come in, view the building, talk about what they're doing. And this is just a capital investment in this building that's absolutely stunning up on the town green. And we as residents all know of people, if we don't go there ourselves, that use this. And it contributes to the mental health of our community, whether they're children or elderly playing bridge. They gather together and they talk, and it just immensely helps with the mental health of our community. I would request everyone to really consider, I know it's $41,700. As Larry said, we spent how many minutes talking about $10,000, but this is an investment. They're not asking us to help with operations, daily operations. We have kids that go up there and do art classes, do music classes, and that's all happening here in our community. Our families are not having to go outside the community. I am really thankful to the Friends of Centennial Hall because they had years and years and years where they had no assistance. Let's help them because, as Tamara Lee says, they have been the recipients of at least 20 grants and funds, and that's because the town stands up and supports them. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Donna Mackay, 11 Deer Run Road. I just wanted to say, we've been living in the town for 32 years. Centennial Hall, prior to being bought, was a preschool. If you guys knew that, but my two youngest daughters went there, and I taught for 2 years there. And so there's a special place in my heart for that building, and I just want to encourage everybody to support it. And the fact that they're opening it up for the public is awesome. So I just encourage, hopefully I'm preaching to the choir, but I just encourage everybody to support it because it's a part of our history. It's a part of Northampton.
Thanks, Donna. Anybody else with, go ahead, Jen.
I just wanted to say one more thing. We'd be happy to tour any members of the community who are interested in seeing the hall and seeing what the ballroom, which will have a capacity of 120 people for a wedding reception, all the basement areas. It's a great building. I'd love to have you come in before you vote on whatever the voting date is.
March 11th. Anybody else with comments or questions? Okay, go ahead.
We gave you the one that didn't work.
That was
I could give you mine.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk about the other side. I absolutely agree that Centennial Hall is a beautiful building, and the work that you have done is amazing. When I came here 18 years ago, it did not look like it looks now. And the fact that you developed a not-for-profit and that you're earning revenue from renting it out is wonderful. It is an asset to the community. So everything everyone said about it being an asset and the good work and the good people is absolutely true. I voted no on the Budget Committee for this warrant article, and the reason is I don't know that it should be I don't think it should be taxpayer dollars across the entire community to pay for a building that is a not-for-profit, is a separate organization, is not owned by the town, and that's why I voted no. It doesn't mean I don't think these should have heat. I think maybe a capital campaign for your not-for-profit might be good. I think additional marketing in order to have additional revenue to generate funds to come in to cover costs, not only operating costs at break even, as you say, but also these situations is important. But this is up to the town. This is up to the community, and I'm not making any recommended changes. I just want to make sure that people know it can be both. It can be an excellent building and an asset, and the town can vote no for this. So, and it's up to the voters. Thank you.
Any other additional comments or questions?
Tracy Williams, 129 Walnut, great neighborhood. I like to call it the West End now of Northampton. You know, I agree with all of the great things about the Centennial Hall. I myself had a celebration of life there for a family member who lost their life to drug addiction. And I think it's an investment for all of the town. And I would really encourage everyone to give the town the opportunity to vote on this warrant by approving this warrant specifically to go to the ballot. Thank you.
Frank, come on up.
Frank Burrow, Post Road. I just have a question, and it is related.
Can you get a little closer? I don't think we can quite hear you.
Yeah. Does the town own the rail trail?
The state owns the rail trail. The town has a signed agreement with the state for custody and maintenance and responsibility for the trail. It's owned by the state, but we have a signed agreement with the state over its use and care.
Okay. Well, even though this is a nonprofit organization, the memorandum of understanding was written to address the issue of town funds, taxpayer funds, being used at the facility. And in exchange for those funds, the town gets to use for free the facility, and they have done that in the past. So I wouldn't say that this is giving money to a nonprofit and it's all theirs. We all get to use it too. And having been there this past tree lighting event, it was a wonderful event on the second floor, but I had to keep my coat on too because it was so cold. And it'd be a shame to have anything happen after all these years and all the money spent. It'd be a shame to have anything happen because the old radiators and pipes weren't repaired or had to wait more years for the nonprofit to raise enough money to fix them. And as with the rail trail, I think this is probably going on, discussion's going on a little too long, so thank you.
Okay, any other final comments or questions?
All right, so I'm going to move to restrict reconsideration of Article number 23.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Then Article 23 moves to the ballot as written. Anything else that anyone wants to comment on? Kirsten, come on up.
Kirsten Larson Schultz, Post Road. I would just like to thank Selectman Jim Majori for your many years on the board and serving our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing as there are no other business we need to address today, this meeting is officially closed. However, reminder, school deliberative session is Tuesday night, right back here, 7 p.m. Voting on the official ballot is March 11th, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the gym. Absentee ballot request forms are up here if you need them. If you want to work on the election day, come on up. We'll sign you up for work. Thank you all for coming today and participating. Have a lovely Saturday.
Yeah, we have to revote. Might as well hang out with them.
Sets of minutes.